Good evening. Welcome, one and all, to Monday's Musings. Shall we call it that? What the hell? Who cares? So we're going to have a look at some stuff tonight. There's just so much. There's so much nonsense going on in the world, isn't there? I mean, just had a look tonight, and there was stuff about breathing causing us to affect climate change. Shocking. What should we do? Yeah, okay. So, good evening, chat room. Evening, Julie, Beats and Types, Yo Yo. Who else we got? We've got other people in there, but they're lurking, aren't they? We've got little tricks tonight, like, for instance, my pop-up. So, if you make a particularly relevant post or comment, I can show everyone it. Yeah, I can show everyone. The whole world can look upon you and gaze fondly at your words of wisdom. Speaking of words of wisdom, after last night's show, I lost 3 subs. But you know what? I can't call out something as evil or nefarious or secretive if they aren't really being that way. You know, it's quite difficult. And of course, one of the comments that was made to me today was that, well, they're hiding in plain sight. Yeah, okay. So you can't win, can you? I mean, just let's say you are a political organisation and you want to have a think tank. Could you be as transparent as possible, or would you be secretive and hold everything in? No matter what way you do it, you're going to get called out for it, aren't you? You're hiding in plain sight. Yeah, it's a secret. Hi, David. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms. He's changed his name to Lucky Charms. We could use some of that, couldn't we? Couldn't we all? Anyway, let's talk about what we're going to talk about tonight then. So we're going to tackle the big one, the question that sits at the heart of every conspiracy theory. Is my audio okay? No, sorry, that's not the question. But you can tell me, you can let me know. Every political shouting match, every pub argument at closing time, the absolute state of the world, crime, chaos, immigration, migration, the feeling that everyone's lost their mind. Is it an inside job? Are we being played? Are we, as a society, just particularly good at shooting ourselves in the foot? Maybe. Or is there an external force, a puppet master by the name of Putin, by the name of Xi, by the name of the WEF, gleefully making us dance? So let's get back to basics and we'll strip it back, because too many people say too many things that have no basis for them to be said. You can have your opinion, but remember, if you have an opinion without facts, it's merely that. It's an opinion. It means nothing to anyone other than yourself. That's your own personal belief system. So let's get the slides going, shall we? You get what you deserve. I think that's quite a good title. How do, Chris? How do? Nice to see you, mate. So, before we go hunting for Russian bots or CIA spooks or MI5 or GCHQ or the government or the WEF or Freemasons or the Fabian Society, those very transparent but hiding in plain sight group, let's have a look. Let's do an assessment of the crime scene itself. And what is the crime scene? Because it does seem that Britain's going down the shitter generally. You know, in many places we're getting rubbish everywhere, we're getting violence, we're getting people fighting with each other, we're getting kids running about in stupid electric motorbikes at 30, 40 mile an hour. These, no helmets, no registrations, and I'm not being a traffic cop here, I'm just being, these kids are going to kill themselves. Because, I mean, I've seen them flying down paths, going around blind corners, and they don't have the road sense to be handling basically electric motorcycles at that speed. And all they're relying on is quick reactions. So, the evidence, what evidence there is painfully clear, actually. The most powerful engine for creating crime and chaos is inequality. That's what all these academics, all these pointy heads and learned institutions tell us. It's not just about some people, though, having yachts while others are on the bus. It's about the erosion, the corrosion of hope that's been niggled away. So academics have a couple of theories on this that actually do hold water. First, there's the strain theory, and it's nothing to do with going to the toilet before you get worried about it. It's a fancy name with a very simple idea. When society bigs you up, it tells you the goal is the big house, the fancy car, or the third car, or the second house, or whatever, but gives you zero chance and zero legitimate way to get there. You get strained. You get rinsed as well. But yeah, you get strained. People get angry. They get frustrated. And some will inevitably take shortcuts. They'll take the illegitimate route. Theft, fraud, you name it. It's a pressure cooker. And that, you're putting people under an expectation of unreality. And then we have the social disorganisation theory. This came about from watching cities decay. When a neighbourhood has a high poverty, with people moving in and out all the time and a mix of cultures that aren't talking to each other, the basic social rules break down. The unofficial neighbourhood watch, and you've all seen them, the nosy cow behind the lace curtains, but she was integral to our society. Mrs. Higgins from number 12. She tutted at kids that spray-painted roadside furniture. She told their mothers they got punished and they didn't do it again. That trust has gone now. It's evaporated and we've got a vacuum. We're operating in a vacuum. And that kind of vacuum breeds crime. And the stats back it up. By reducing inequality, you can slash homicide and robbery rates by over 20%. That's not just waffle. That's actual substantial amount of a reduction. So where does the crime come from? And this is kind of the thing that some people don't understand, but multiculturalism doesn't work. Because studies have shown that if you have a high racial heterogeneity, then crime rates tend to go up. We lose social cohesion. Assaults go up, robberies go up. Place turns into a shithole. Multiculturalism doesn't actually seem to work. And if you have that diversity that everybody talks about, and encourages diversity, it's going to turn your town, your country, into a shithole. Because it doesn't work. And studies have said this. And the Fabian Society themselves published a paper in 2016 that referenced a study that came to that conclusion. So who are we to believe? The left, the right, or the weight of evidence from academia that's telling us this is a flawed system that we're operating under? So the question is, if the Fabian Society themselves published this in 2016, why is the government still going down this route? Why the Tory government go down that route? Because they didn't do anything to stop incoming either. They really didn't. I mean, you can blame Starmer for making it worse, but Has he really? It's probably pretty much the same. Chris says it's keyways and tractors you have to watch here now, Neds. I take it you're down under, mate. Well done. Are you in New Zealand? I've got relations in New Zealand. My uncle had a sheep farm there. My brother was not my brother, my cousin was a karting championship winner at some point. Grumpy was his name, I believe. Right. So where are we? So, the honest answer seems to be that all this crime and shit and everything comes from within. Yes, there may be external factors that exacerbate it, but we're effectively, as a society and as a government, as a group of people running a country, we're making it worse. So, first question, how do we fix it? What do we focus on? Should we put our focus and our money on more police? Or better schools? And youth services? Fix the economy? Reduce inequality? Is that a root cause? Or counter propaganda and securing borders, external threats? So where would you put your money? A, B, C, or D? Just punch it in the chat if you want. I'll go through that again. More police and tougher prisons, right? That would be A. B would be better schools and youth services. C would be fix the economy and reduce inequality. D would be counter propaganda and secure the borders. Where would you put your money first? Your task is to try and fix this country. Where are you going to put your money? Any takers? Anybody listening? Any takers? Nobody? Nobody going to fix the country? We're just going to languish in the shit pile that we've made of our own making? Is that what's going to happen? No? Fix the holes first, secure the borders. But we've just actually been through that, Chris, haven't we? And did we not think that maybe the external factors are less of a problem than the internal ones? Don't know. But at least you've given me an answer. At least you're prepared to take some kind of action. Everybody else has obviously gone off and just left it running. You're on the vertical chat. Welcome. Don't be shy. You don't need to wait in order to make a comment. You can be a subscriber for no cost to yourself, and you can post straight away as soon as you're a subscriber. You don't have to wait for any kind of minutes. You can just post straight away. You can even, take it away once you've finished if you don't like it. Hello, Espresso Mechanic. How you doing? Right. So if you think it's our own fault, let's hold our horses. The evidence locker is full of proof that there are indeed wolves at the door, like Chris is saying. Bring up the external forces that are aligned against us, possibly even the West, China, Russia. I mean, there's evidence to say that China and Russia do interfere in other countries' machinations, politics, whatever. But we do the same. It's not a one-way street. We interfere in other countries as well. Some more obviously than others. I mean, look at Afghanistan, for instance. Look at what's going on just now in the Middle East. There's a fair bit of interference going on there. Look at Ukraine. There's a couple of countries, a few countries interfering in that one. Look at Africa. People are interfering there. Not least the Chinese at the moment. But anyway, right. So let's get down to things like information warfare. It's not a movie plot, But the goal is simple. It makes us tear ourselves apart, and other countries can benefit from that economically. It doesn't even need to have a military outcome. An economic outcome is sufficient. And we've got documented evidence that foreign states have used social media to influence things from elections to public health debates. Remember, it was found that the Russians did indeed interfere in the 2016 US elections, but they didn't. They didn't promote Trump. What they did was promote Hillary because they wanted Hillary as the weaker president because they thought they'd get a better deal. So, I mean, make of that what you will. And you've seen the people with bot armies with phones and things that are sitting there. Let me just put this back on main screen because I don't have slides for this just now. They create thousands of fake accounts and they flood it. And you see there are bot armies and comms interfering with our own politicians. When our own politicians come out with tweets that say exactly the same thing, that's come from a central office of communications, of which the head of number 10's communications has apparently resigned today. I'd like to think I played some part in that. I probably didn't, but I'd like to think it. But you find that most of the things that go against us aren't lies. They're amplification of our current situations. So the most clever tactic isn't lying, it's finding a genuine, painful truth. And it could be a story about corruption, it could be a video of police going wild or something, it could be anything, but they make sure it goes viral in the most inflammatory way possible. And that's the one that triggers our biggest problems. They're the kind of videos and tweets and things that cause us real problems. Not things like Lucy Connolly's tweet, but no doubt that was picked up off-site and amplified. Because if you're a Russian or a Chinese, in charge of information war, and you see this kicking off in the UK, you're going to amplify that because to cause the UK government an issue is fantastic from your point of view because it takes their eye off the ball, they start doing stupid things, and economically you gain advantage. And let's face it, we've not been friendly to neither China nor Russia. And then sometimes they'll plant a fake story, a dodgy official-looking news site that's been created. They have their bots share the link. Other slightly more reputable sites pick it up, and before you know it, it's been discussed on mainstream news as a report. It's basically a digital forgery. And we do the same thing. Don't think we are the squeaky clean, white-hatted knights in order, because we're not. It's not just politics, it's about ideological influence. For decades, we've been sold the idea of neoliberalism, the belief that the market knows best. The market will self-correct. Public services should be cut. Everyone is an individual responsible for their own success or failure. And these are all valid points. But it wasn't a foreign plot in the traditional sense. It was an external ideology that was adopted and led directly to the very inequality and breakdown of community services that we now see as fueling crime. Prime example of an external idea causing a massive internal problem, because one of the big things that we treasure and we think of as almost uniquely British is our health service. And yes, it continually gets castigated for wasting money, for not being able to do certain things, for mismanagement, whatever. And that's all true. But let's look at the American health situation, which is it any better in real terms? Because you're paying for what you get, and boy, are you paying. a woman's baby needed a life-saving helicopter flight from one hospital to another, and she got a bill for $114,000 just for the flight. Her insurance isn't covering all that. In fact, you see Americans quite often saying if they go along to try and buy a service or get some kind of health operation or whatever, it would be like a third of the cost if they actually didn't have insurance. But because they've got insurance, they've got to pay the inflated price, and their insurance company picks up the rest of it. So that in effect is a form of it's a form of socialism, in that what the insurance companies are doing is they're creaming off the people that can pay in order for the hospitals to manage to treat people that can't. But I think the system's completely flawed, and I mean the NHS isn't perfect, but it's a basis of free at the point of use healthcare. It doesn't rip you off that much. You know, national insurance doesn't cost you that much. I'm not saying it couldn't be done better. It almost certainly could. But we don't want to get into the situation, and unfortunately I think we're getting there, that we have doctors prescribing drugs because they're getting kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. And I think that is the start of the long, slippery road into complete medical corporatism. And we end up very much like America. We really should hold that off as long as we possibly can. Right. So let's go for it. Let's see. So try and give me an example, if you can, in your own head, of an external force that's messing with us right now. Now, if you've got one, that's fine, but you got to pass the sniff test. You got to pass the Sgt Grumpy part of it. It's got to be credible, and it can't be a trust me bro story. If you really want priority, you can drop super chats and things, because I haven't had any recently, and I didn't get paid out last month. Because I fell short by £2. There you go. You might find our adverts on here. I'm not quite sure if I'll put them on, because nobody paid on Friday night, and nobody gave me any donations last night. So things are getting tight at Grumpy Towers. Right. Committee of 300, fingers and too many pies. Committee of 300. What is that? I'm going to have to consult my oracle of knowledge. The Committee of 300 is a conspiracy theory that claims a powerful group was founded by the British aristocracy in 1727 and rules the world. Oh, did we do this in the Black Nobility of the rabbit hole thing? Can't quite remember, but we might have. Theory states, due to a statement, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Okay. Rothschild says, well, we've actually gone through this in quite a lot of detail, Chris. In the Black Nobility in the Black Nobility rabbit hole episodes. And yeah, we can't nail it down. So this is the problem, right? If it's hidden, it's very, very well hidden. And it's very difficult to nail it down. I mean, when you look at Rothschild and things like that, if anything, they would be middlemen. But who are they getting their orders from? Very, very tricky. Very tricky. That's something I'm prepared to look into, though. I won't throw it away out of hand. Right. Okay. So let's get back into it. So our internal failings, inequality, crumbling social services, political corruption, it creates a perfect fertile soil of anger and mistrust, which is kind of what we've got just now. The external forces then come along, like migration, say, we aren't effectively policing our borders. Well, we aren't. It's quite straightforward. And that plants the seeds of chaos on the soil. It uses our own anger against us. And you can see this is happening because we've got people out in the streets now protesting migrants being held in hotels. And the thing that gets me is these people are illegal migrants. There's no doubt about it, because as far as international law goes, if you are an asylum seeker, you seek sanctuary in the first safe country you come to. Now, there is no way on this earth that the UK is the first safe country that you're coming to. I mean, we're an island. Unless you came here on a boat all the way from Africa, you didn't seek sanctuary in the first safe country you came to. And even then, you bypassed safe countries, even if you were on a boat, in order to get to the UK. So we are the victim of people coming here deliberately, probably as a result of, one, colonialism, because Britain spent a lot of time in Africa and the Middle East. It taught people a lot of things, and they looked up to the UK, and they look at the UK as somewhere desirable to be. They have no idea what it's like right now. And then secondly, our welfare benefit system gives them more benefits than they would get in, for instance, say France. If you go to France as an illegal, you're getting very little to live on. You're basically on subsistence. And if you don't give up your fingerprints for their, to be registered in France, you're getting nothing. You're living in a tent. So maybe we should be doing things like that. Because, and let's be quite clear here, the European Court of Human Rights doesn't stop us doing any of these things because France does them. Denmark does them. Sweden have refused to take any more immigrants. Poland won't take immigrants. The European Court of Human Rights doesn't stop us doing anything with immigrants. It's our own courts that are causing the issue. And it's people like Keir Starmer who put laws in place to stop us deporting immigrants. So our house is rotting from the inside. It's full of tinder. The gas is leaking. We've set it on fire. And you know what we're doing? We're blaming the fucking fire service for making the carpet wet when they come and put it out. Because our problems all stem from within. Yes, there are an issue with people coming here through our borders. That's not the basis of our problems. Our problems are stemming from within, and we are not helping ourselves by doing things like spreading illegal immigrants or even immigrants throughout the country into communities that have never seen a black man. And you might think that's hyperbole, but I'll be honest, I never saw a black man until I was about 12 years old. And I think I had to go to London to see one. You still don't see them regularly up here. But you're now seeing them in quantities I couldn't even contemplate. Sometimes I've seen 6 or 7 black people in one day. That's a lot. And you might think I'm talking nonsense, but it's a lot. When your community has been, homogenous for God knows how many years, decades, centuries even. So the evidence shows that the most effective long-term solutions are the boring internal ones. Better schools, better mental health treatment. I mean, we've shut all the asylums, haven't we? There's no institutions anymore. It's care in the community. And how is that working out? Well, I think we all know how that's working out. It's absolutely terrible. You know, most people that commit crime are claiming some kind of mental illness, and there's probably a high percentage of them actually mentally ill. Care in the community doesn't work. Multiculturalism doesn't work. Trying to force people to be with people that are culturally diverse doesn't freaking work. I mean, there's a biker gang here who are Poles, and I'm sure the Poles are fine people, but they only allow Polish people in their biker gang, and they all speak Polish to each other. That's not integration. That's them just living here as Poles. Yeah, and hey, before you say it, yes, people do the same thing. But people like English retirees that go to Spain aren't taking Spanish jobs off them. Yeah, they're living the life of an expat, but they're not taking people's livelihoods away, are they? I mean, there was a huge problem with Polish lorry drivers at one point because they were coming over here for 6 months, creaming it, and then going back without paying any tax. And this went on for years. And that's called working the system, you know, when we were in the EU. They just absolutely ripped the piss out of us. And there was nothing you could do to stop them. And that's people who are here legally. So you've got to look after your borders, but you've got to look internally and not give every Tom, Dick and Harry who comes from India or Africa or whoever with, let's just say, very, very dubious qualifications. Don't give them jobs of responsibility and high worth like nurses, care attendants, people that are looking after people, lorry drivers. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Mr. Peak in America, who crossed the central, or tried to cross the central reservation and wiped out a family of 3, who also happened to be immigrants, apparently. Does it matter? No. They still killed 3 people. So, yeah. Back to the things that help us, mental health, programs that reduce poverty. Yep. Because, you know, I mean, I was a cop in some of the worst areas in Glasgow. You know, I've seen some of the worst areas in Glasgow. And I was a cop in Irvine as well. And Irvine is a shithole because it's full of people from Pollock. No offence, people in Pollock, but you're all shitholes. And the built, you know, Irvine was a new town. It came out of probably next to nothing. The actual small part of Irvine that was original is very small. And then they dumped all these people from Pollock in it. And Kilwinning itself, just outside Irvine, is another 19,000 people, all from Pollock. Because you used to lift them and say, where are you from? And they'd go, Kilwinning. And you'd go, no, where are you really from? And they'd go, Pollock. But anyway, transplanting people doesn't work. It doesn't create a community. And without growing up into a community, you don't get the benefits of it. And what they're doing now is destroying this country. And I actually don't think they're trying to destroy it deliberately. I think what they're trying to do is minimise the impact by diluting the incomers amongst the indigenous population, because in real terms, you know, even if there's 1 million of them, that's only a tiny percentage when you spread it out across the country. But it doesn't fucking work. It's a completely wrong thing to do. And their own people tell them that on both sides, both policy think tanks, right and left, say don't do it because it increases crime rates, it reduces social cohesion, it makes people angry, and yet they're still doing it because I genuinely think they think it's the best thing to do, because if they try and put people in a camp, then it becomes lawless. Well, yeah, if it does, like Cali, you know, the tent city in Cali, if it does become lawless, then it's contained, and it's only lawless against the people that shouldn't be here anyway. So it's like a degree of lawlessness in a prison. There's always that. And yet we don't shut down prisons and let everyone... Well, we do, don't we? Jesus Christ, we did that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So anyway, doing things like that, you know, improving the police, taking less shit, have a harder stance. I mean, New York proved that work. New York went from being a complete and utter den of vipers to somewhere you could walk about quite safely. You could use the subway at almost any time of the day and night. All by zero tolerance policing. And yeah, okay, it's hard. It sounds harsh because you crack down on everything. But if you crack down on everything, everybody knows what's going to happen. If you step out of line, you get hammered. And that's the problem here, because people step out of line and some get hammered and some don't. And there does appear to be two-tier policing and certainly a two-tier justice system, because judges do not appear to be applying the law and penalties evenly and fairly. It seems to be that if you have particular tinges to your skin, then you get off with things more than others. And yet, that side always claim they get treated more harshly. So the question is, who's right? What you need is a community that trusts its neighbours and believes it is a fair shot, and that would then be immune to propaganda. But we don't have that, do we? We don't have communities that trust our neighbours because we have been divided. We are fighting against each other left and right continually. Look, there was a guy on Twitter today sitting in an airport. A black guy sat down, he had a MAGA hat on, and the guy beside him was obviously a Democrat, and said, either you move or I move, because I'm not going to engage in conversation. And the black guy, well, the first black guy, the MAGA guy, goes, I can't believe 60 years after civil rights and I'm getting castigated by my own people. And the Democrat guy goes, you're not my people. But we used to talk about this. I mean, you go back and you look at old British TV programmes like Bless This House and Love Thy Neighbour. Love Thy Neighbour's a cracker. And people are very much different parts of the political spectrum. But, you know, the thing in Love Thy Neighbour is, although the guy comes from Jamaica or whatever, and it's that guy that he played somebody in EastEnders, I can't remember the guy's name, the black guy, the old black guy. But he was in Love Thy Neighbour as a young man, and the culture isn't different. What has happened there is the people have embraced the culture that they have gone to. And that's the only way that immigration works. Because you can't go to a foreign country and still pretend it's the UK unless you've subjugated that country, which we did during Empire. And that works. But it's frowned upon nowadays, but it worked, and it worked really well. And we made, administrative areas in Africa for our convenience. Not for the Africans' convenience, but for ours. And that was fine because we were in control and it worked. But when we left, it fell apart. It fell apart quicker than you could say, fuck. It's falling apart. Because the Africans weren't there to make a country. They just lived there. They have completely different concepts of, their culture's different. How they run things is different. Their understanding of what's appropriate and what's not. The level of corruption. These things are all completely different. So, right, well, apparently I've presented my case according to this script that I wrote earlier. I presented the evidence. Let's open the floor. Do we have any questions? Do we? Any questions from you guys? Are you enjoying these little chats that we're having? Or am I boring the arse off you? You tell me. If you don't like it, I'll stop doing it, because there's no point in me being here if you don't like it. But yeah. Any questions? No? Beats and Tape says that's a cult. Yeah, it probably was, mate. Probably was. Fabian one was interesting. Thank you, David. I think I annoyed... Well, I kind of think that I annoyed people with the Fabian one, because, I went into the Fabian Society without knowing really anything about them. I'd seen the wolf in sheep's clothing things. But it's not something that appears to be terribly nefarious. And it's hard to call out something without evidence. Beats and Tape says he enjoys them. David says he's learned a few things he didn't know before. Oh, that's always good. That's good. Oh, and this, we're going to get... I've got a short summation for you, but we're going to get onto the thing I'm always banging about. And what I'm always banging about, people. Right, the big takeaway is this. Stop looking for a single bad guy. The problem is the system. Our own internal failings create the perfect playground for external troublemakers, for bad actors, if you will. We need to focus on fixing our own communities. We need to have strong, fair, cohesive society. And that's the best defence against any kind of propaganda. And it's much harder work than blaming foreigners and foreign bogeymen and bad actors on social media. But it's the only thing that's actually been proven to work. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep banging on at the system to change the system, because what they're doing is never going to work. You cannot keep adding to the population the way they are, because it will result in violence on the streets. Because cultures will not merge. They will not merge. You can see that quite obviously. They don't merge just now. There are certain groups of people that run shops and things that are quite happy to sell you goods, but they'll never partake in any events you have. You're never going to invite them to a wedding. They're not going to invite you to their type of wedding. You're not going to their church. They're not coming to yours. You don't share barbecues. You don't meet each other in the pub, because some of them just won't go to the pub. And they have completely different attitudes to things like sex and the place of women. And if you want women to step back more than 50 years, more than 70 years in time, that's why you can't have multiculturalism, because it doesn't freaking work. Look at Bradford. Bradford is the most dangerous city in, not the UK, in Europe. It's more dangerous than Marseille or Naples. See Bradford and die. You just can't do it. And if you keep trying to do it, you will end up with violence. That's my view. And it's not great. It's not great. But the only way I can see out of this is either the government starts to listen to the Indigenous population, but that means the Indigenous population, which is you and I, need to stand up and be counted. And that, unfortunately, doesn't happen often enough by enough people. It's very, very rare that we get a huge amount of people out. And we never get them out when it's inconvenient to them. If it's raining or it's a weekday, you're never going to see any kind of protest. The people that make change are those, that protest effectively. And some of the best ones that protesting effectively has been Just Stop Oil. Because they're disrupting things that actually happen. They get in people's faces. And it's great to see 500,000, 800,000, 1 million people in the streets of London protesting against the restrictions on our liberties. But it was a Saturday or a Sunday. And the only people that got inconvenienced were the shoppers, who were the people on the parades. So, waste of time? Maybe. Did it show the government that we needed to change direction? I don't think so. Certainly didn't help in Scotland. We had protests as well. Didn't help. Didn't make... I mean, Scotland had some of the longest lockdowns in the known world. Yeah. The system is the root of the trouble, says Espresso Mechanic. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can... There you go. Well, looks good, doesn't it? Now, how do we get it to show the whole thing, though? That's the thing. You'll have to bear with me because I'm obviously playing with my tools here. Let me see. Oh, wrong button. Nope. Bear with me, people. I'm just trying to adjust this to see if I can get the whole thing out. No, it just seems to take a snapshot of the first two lines. But anyway, as Espresso Mechanic says, quite eloquently, my words exactly, the system is the root of all the trouble, which is why Farage won't make any difference. He's part of the system. Of course he is. Of course he is. And anyone who thinks otherwise is kidding themselves on, aren't they? You know, I mean, it's great to see change, but and just, I know this is a difficult thing to do, but step back. Just step back. And really, what's changed for you personally from 2 years ago to today? You know, what, 2 years ago we had Liz Truss as our Prime Minister. What's changed for you between then and now, other than electricity bills have gone up? Kirby. I hated people playing Kirby once I'd grown up because it's so fucking annoying, that noise. Dum, 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 dum. Joey says communities have changed massively since I was a kid. It's tragic. Lots of changes needed in the mindset of people, putting tech down and getting into the real world's a bloody good start. And it's not going to happen, Julie. You know that. And I think the problem is, I think one of the biggest problems is that I think reading books was a great thing. It was a great thing because what it did was it taught you. I mean, I might be talking bollocks here, and by all means contradict me. I think one of the things that reading books did was it taught you the principle of delayed gratification. Because you couldn't really skip right to the end because you never knew if that was the end or if the end had happened, like sometimes 3/4 of the way through the book and it was just a preamble, or not a preamble, but what do you call it? A postamble at the end. But you usually read a book sequentially in the way it was meant to be read. But nowadays, people want instant gratification. I've seen people fast forward in movies to get to the end, or watching things at double speed. Really? If it's that boring that you can go through it at double speed, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even watching it? It's crazy though. And the other thing that destroys me is seeing kids of 2, 3, 4 iPads shoved in their face and put in buggies and stuff, or sitting in chairs or sitting at their dinner with an iPad, and you're ruining their eyesight, because kids below 8 still need to be able to see multiple distance changes multiple times during the day in good light. And you're not getting that looking at a blue screen. You're not getting that. So you're ruining their eyesight. And you've seen that. People have said if they go out and stare into the distance for an hour a day, take the glasses off and just look into the distance for an hour a day. An hour. Imagine sitting doing nothing but looking for an hour. Good grief. I mean, that's just... It beggars belief. I remember going for walks in the woods and just walking through the woods. And I wasn't doing anything creepy. I was just walking through the woods. And people, you just don't see it anymore. And if you do, it was like somebody on Twitter today. I spend too much time on Twitter and I'm really trying to cut it down. But somebody on Twitter said a family was at a water park or something. Oh no, it was a zoo. Family was at the zoo, and they were, the guy had said, "How much longer are we going to be here?" And the woman turns right to him and said, "You can play your game when we get home. You've only been here 30 minutes." What the men are turning into children, and I am convinced of this. These people you see right now, these men, these soft, weak soy boys, 35 and down or whatever, those people are not men, they are children. They behave like children, they want instant gratification, and they just will not take responsibility for their own actions. They play victim all the fucking time. And these are the weak men that you were promised. You were promised them. I made a tweet just before the show. Someone said, "Where are all the strong men?" And the strong men have gone because hard times make strong men. We're not in particularly hard times, but we're getting there. And you'll get your strong men back. But it'll probably be the next generation. So you'll get there. You'll get them back. But yeah, and sometimes when you look back at what life was like in the 60s and 70s and 80s, you have to think, don't just remember the good stuff. I mean, I couldn't afford petrol from our motorbike, so me and my mate used to go out and steal it from Works vans. I mean, it was like fucking Mad Max in the 70s. So, we'd be out siphoning petrol out of Ford Transits. They were all petrol in those days. Nobody had diesels. But yeah, so that's what life was like in the 70s, in some parts. So yeah, it's not all rose-tinted and it's not all great, but you've got to make You've got to make it what it is. You can't live in the past. You just can't. You can't really live in the future. You can live toward the future, but you can't live in the future. What you have to do is live in the moment and make that moment and these moments as important to you as you possibly can, and to your friends and to your family. Because these moments are all too fleeting. And you will look back and regret when you realise there are maybe things you could have done or said or trips you could have taken. And I mean, I was talking to my wife about this because we spent a shitload of money on trips abroad and holidays and doing things and, you know, living in nice houses and stuff. We spent a shitload doing that. And you know what? We've got those memories to look back to look back at, because we can't do it now because we don't have any money. But what would you rather have? Would you rather have something that you could look back at and say, I did that? You know, I've seen that. I've been to the Grand Canyon. I've seen that massive hole in the ground. You know, would you rather do that? I've flown over New York in a helicopter. I took the Queen Mary 2 from Southampton to New York. And these are great memories to have, great things to experience. So would you rather say that you'd done these things, or would you rather be living comfortably, but on an ever-decreasing pile of savings that's going to gnaw away at you because you know they're going to run out? So there we go. I might be talking shite, but there you go. So remember, like, share, subscribe, people. There's been no donations tonight, which is fine. I can't expect donations every night, but you will get adverts tomorrow. I think we're going to try and be back every night for the week and see how it goes, because I've got to pick the channel up, because YouTube have sent me an invite to what they call it, some kind of boot camp or something. So we'll see how that goes. I'll see if I can push the channel a little bit more. There's always Snarky Cinema as well, Snarky-Cinema on YouTube with the reviews. The new review out today was Final Destination Bloodlines. I think you'll find it quite interesting. Not a bad movie. Not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. Just had some strange casting choices. So that's it. That's from me tonight. Bit of evidence-based grumpiness in your life. Stay safe. Question everything. Don't believe anything just because some bloke on the internet told you, and that definitely includes me. So check your sources. And as always, it's been great for you